Elijah Tyson, other known as Coach Tyson, and I'm the founder of Content to Sales. I was a certified fitness and health and wellness coach for over 10 years, and I also built my own very successful niche online transformation business. And inside of that process, there were so many different nuances and things that I didn't know that were limiting me from making impact that I had to figure out. And that's why I created Content to Sales, because I know that a lot of times what's holding a great coach back from making the impact they can make is simply their ability to articulate the value of what they do, so that way people can raise their hand to work with them. And so here at Content to Sales, what I do is help passionate, driven coaches like yourself build sustainability and scalability, so that way you can create impact inside of your coaching business. And so we do that by coming in and helping you really master your messaging and your value articulation to the marketplace, while helping you set up systems to streamline content production, to create value for your audience and develop your thought leadership, and then help you acquire more clients that want to work with you with our relationship driven sales system. And so listen, I learned that you could be a great coach who's really good at helping people towards transformation, but still be limited in your impact because you don't have the right skill sets to acquire clients and run your business effectively. My mission is to equip coaches with those same skills that I had to learn, so that way they can build sustainable systems and sustainable business to make the impact that they want to make.
Hello, and once again, welcome to Journey to Harmony. I'm your host, Richard Harmon. On this channel, we talk about the process of building wealth, different career opportunities, as well as how these things integrate to help us to become the people we were purposed to be. On today's episode, I'm very pleased to bring you Elijah Tyson. Elijah's a multifaceted West Indian-raised entrepreneur, coach, and practitioner, commencing his career in sales and entrepreneurship with over 8 years in various industries. From fitness to software as a service, Elijah believes in finding alignment in your body, mind, family, and business. He's also a founder of Content to Sales, where he assists online business owners gripping the gap between content and their sales process to foster business sustainability. Elijah, welcome to the channel.
Welcome, man. Good to be here.
I appreciate you. If you wouldn't mind, can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about Content to Sales and some of your other business ventures?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So Content to Sales is a venture that I started based on really just necessity in a marketplace with where everything is going online, in the online education space, alternative education space, especially for people who are delivering coaching, consulting, and services online. You know, I found I'm delivering a service that I felt I need when I ran my online fitness business. So to give you a little bit of a backdrop, I have quite an interesting flow into business and sales and things of that nature. I started back in sales just as a fitness trainer in college. However, when I graduated college, I ran a hard tech startup for a little bit, about 2.5 years, and I really just did my personal training on the side to pay my bills as I was looking to grow that company. And then I kind of grew from there and went into the online education space as an online fitness coach. So now we were looking at, again, doing similar things, but doing most of my business development online, which required me to have a brand, which required me to understand marketing, business development at a very high level in order to grow and sustain an online business. And so I grew that to about multiple six figures on my own within about 2.5 years. And I just saw the need to continue to grow and continue to evolve, right? I took a great step into building and positioning yourself with the right messaging, the right thought leadership, teaching people how to demonstrate their value systems online. So that way they can really begin to close the gap between, how they're showing up online and what's actually happening in the business. I think those are two different things. And I think that especially in an industry such as online businesses, there can be sometimes a gap there. So I really just built the Content to Sales to fill that gap, to give myself personally what I felt I needed when I was in that stage of building an online business.
That's a lot. So again, here I'll have a picture of Elijah's Instagram. I think you have about 13,000 followers at the moment. How did you get into all of this? So does your family come from entrepreneurs? Did you at an early age just decide that you wasn't going to go that route? How did you get started?
Yeah, I would say I came from a family of entrepreneurs in a interesting way. I would say But I would say this. I think for me, I've always had an entrepreneurial drive, and entrepreneurship is how I express my creativity. So, I work as an account executive in tech sales now, and like this is my first time having a 9 to 5 since I've graduated college in
Wow.
2017. And so, or at least a salary 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say, I've always sort of liked to live in environments where I can be very initiative driven, be very problem solving driven, and really just express my creativity through building things. And so I didn't necessarily come from a family of traditional entrepreneurs, but
Mhm.
through college and through my different experiences, I got to just learn more about it and really just self taught, man. I always say running a startup was my MBA because I did 2 years, and that was just about the time of an MBA. And I graduated with a depth of knowledge there. And so I just really took those things. And when I was personal training, I had to ask myself, like, man, is this actually scalable though?
Mhm.
Um, and that was really one of the biggest challenges I had to figure out. And when I thought about the online business model, that's where I sought to be able to deliver more impact at scale while also being able to have a little bit more earning potential within my revenue capabilities. And so that's what got me into the whole online business space of business development.
That's what's up, bro. So again, like you leave school and you decide overall that this business journey is for you.
Yeah.
What are some of the initial struggles, I guess, that you face as you open your business? Was it initially just a launch and everything was cool, or was it rocky at first? Like how did everything go?
Yeah, that's a great question to wax. I would say that it's always kind of rocky, right?
Hmm.
And I say that to say, you know, I've 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 learned, there's all different types of challenge. I would say that the biggest sort of bottlenecks and challenges that you face as an entrepreneur is in three places. Number one is, your beliefs, right? Your beliefs about your capabilities, your beliefs
Hmm.
about, I learned that there's a price for not thinking big, right?
Yeah.
That was one of my very, very big lessons early in the game. Then you have your skill sets, which is like your actual skill sets and your ability and your experience
Hmm.
to know how to actually grow a business. That's something that really just comes with experience, and there's no amount of theory that can teach us that. It's really just around getting inside of the process. And then I always say that there is like your who you are, right?
Hmm.
And the way that you personally, from your own personality trait and just who you are perspective, who you are and how you show up in business, because all those things have to grow and evolve,
Yeah.
right? So I think that when you can understand that and understand that you're ever evolving, I kind of just look at the challenges like, there will always be challenges in growing a business. I would say one of the initial challenges though was really just getting the skill sets, getting access to the opportunities and the resources to even know where to go, what direction to go, and how to put things together. But over time, with experience, with investing in myself, with putting myself out there, those naturally just those skill sets and those beliefs and those environments and my personality around how I approach business, they just continue to develop, and they still are developing even to this day, right? So I think that there's no I could give you 100 different types of challenges, but I think the best way to boil it down will be to put it in those sort of subcategories.
Hmm. Definitely. Did you initially join the social media like trend from the beginning, or was it kind of something that you learned and realized that you needed to scale at a higher rate than you can do face to face?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's just something that I learned that was needed. So I was on social media obviously before for my own personal use years ago,
Hmm.
but especially when I transitioned to running an online business, that's
Hmm.
where 90% of my business came from,
Hmm.
right? And so I use social media as a tool and leveraging it to grow the business, so that way I can have things more centralized. So honestly, I always tell people like, look, if I didn't have a business, y'all wouldn't really catch me on social media. I use it solely for the purpose that I know that I have to connect with my audience, build my brand, and obviously develop the business through client acquisition as well.
Definitely. I think a lot of people get lost overall just in terms of just reading content. I think like you can scroll for hours, just like wasting
Yes.
time that should be spent doing your craft.
Yep.
What's your take right now on whether it's like how do you spend your time? I guess like are you you have time where you watch television and stuff like that, or are you just like a zero in focus, just always doing something type of person?
That's a great question, man. I would say right now, I definitely make time for my hobbies and activities that kind of keep me balanced and aligned. But it really, man, it's just a matter of locking in. I will say that having a 9 to 5 and trying and building your business while it's already had structure is definitely a task,
Hmm.
right? So time management is key, and so I would say that it's definitely a matter of making the times for the things that keep me balanced and that kind of keep me not cascading into burnout.
Hmm.
But realistically, just continuously, always doing the work to improve and just really just in a season of focus, and just understanding that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you have a mentor, or did you find a mentor along your journey?
Yeah, man, I've had a tremendous amount of mentors, some in a more traditional light, and some in a more like coaching and consulting light that I've paid for. So definitely have a large variety and mix of mentorship. And honestly, man, I just put myself in a position where I just like, look, if there's people that with knowledge that I don't have, then I
Mhm.
want to be able to get around it. And so sometimes that's just through a relationship, and sometimes that's through paying my way into a relationship or into a certain set of knowledge or wisdom with my dollars. And so the way that I look at it is like, if there's information standing in front of me and where I want to be, what can I actually do to get in front of that information? So I've had mentorships in every which way that you can think about. Online
Mhm.
coaches, I've had consultants, I've had traditional mentorships, advisors. And so I really, really value mentorship in regards in both ways. I value
Mhm.
mentoring, and I also value making sure that I always have the right people to be able to take heed from their insights, from their experiences, and to learn from them as well.
Definitely. I think a really underrated aspect of growing yourself and growing your network is going to conferences. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we see the cost of the conference to be $300 or $400, but not realizing that you're buying yourself into an environment that you generally wouldn't have access to. Are
Man.
any particular conferences that you have attended? I guess yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Conferences, we always say, and I'm gonna bring this full circle, right? We
Mhm.
always say about like how you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, man, entrepreneurship is lonely, and it's lonely for a lot of people, right? I'm fortunate at this point to say that I have a great group of a great community of other entrepreneurs and other like-minded people. And when I
Mhm.
think about where I met most of them, it was at conferences,
Mhm.
right? So conferences, like, it's all about having a value driven mindset. Like, yeah, you might be paying $300 or $500 for that ticket,
Yeah.
but okay, well, what knowledge are you getting access to? What
Mhm.
environment are you getting access to? What type of people are you getting access to? How can you foster those relationships long term? Right.
Mhm.
Because the way that I look at an investment of knowledge is, if I want to get to some place where there's serious people who are on a serious level, then I know that a $500 ticket is a barrier of entry to people who aren't serious. So I
Exactly.
already know that if I go to a conference, this could be a conference around sales, it could be a conference in your specific niche. But if I go to a conference and the tickets are $500, tickets are $1,000, I
Mhm.
know that all of the people that are there are serious about their body of work, that are
Mhm.
serious about getting better at what they're doing. And that
Mhm.
allows me to connect with people, knowing that we can build valuable relationships and we can foster community and we can foster growth together.
That is great. Um, with that, so technology has changed so much in the last 5 years,
Yep.
and what used to take 100 people to do now can now pretty much be done with 5 or 10.
Yep.
What are some options for those who are interested um, in moving into terms of entrepreneurship, of getting started, and how can they better use technology to scale?
Yeah, man, technology is incredible and allows us to do some amazing things in business and move at amazingly fast speeds. I always say entrepreneurship is just about solving problems. And
Hmm.
so, it doesn't matter where you're at. Doesn't matter really where you're at and sort of like where you're operating at. Find a problem that you can solve that people want to pay for. And then
Hmm.
there's so many different ways that you can leverage technology in order to do that. I even think about like on a day-to-day basis, like I'm leveraging technology like AI to help me with my YouTube channel growth, and
Hmm.
different AIs to help me with things like creating captions on social media that save me time, or AIs that help with video editing and all these different things. And it's like you can literally almost like have a salaried, skilled person within a combination of technology nowadays. And so
Yeah.
the goal is to figure out, well, okay, how can I solve a problem? What resources do I need to solve that problem? And what is some technology I can use to kind of bridge the gap so way I can deliver a solution? And so I think that when it comes to start at the problem and kind of work your way up from there and figure out like, well, what technology can I actually leverage? Even when it comes to getting information on how to start, right?
Mhm.
You can say, man, I live in a very, very like a highly residential area, right? And there's always a necessity for people getting their cars cleaned, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, well, what way should I start like a car detailing business, or maybe I should start a lead generation business for car detailing businesses,
Mhm.
right? Like there's obviously a demand here for it.
Yeah,
Well, you can even leverage AI to figure out the numbers and the statistics and like what are some different ways that you can even approach that business model. And so there's just endless amounts of ways if you immerse yourself into it, kind of go down that rabbit hole, but you can definitely find some answers to make some movements for sure.
definitely. I think that that's a big one. Like something I've been talking about a lot is that like I think we as a society are kind of moving into a post-employment age
Mm-hmm.
where I think the U.S. economy is becoming global, where
Yeah,
you're every your competition is no longer the person that lives down the street, but someone who lives halfway across the world. So being able to create different opportunities where you can leverage technology, where you can become your own entrepreneur. It may just be a side gig, but I think it's something that's definitely becoming needed for people and
yeah,
something that people should really focus on in the future.
yeah. Man, I'm so I've. It's funny that you say that because I think we're moving into a society where it's we have to leverage technology to create for ourselves.
Yeah.
And as you can see what's happened in the job market, especially in tech, I think people are realizing like, look, you can be loyal to a company, you can, do a great job, but at the end of the day, when the push come to shove, if the math don't math, then you might be the one with the short end of the stick. And
Yeah.
that's capitalism, right? And so it's
Mhm.
like I guess the other side of it is like, do we complain about it or do we make sure that we have leverage? And it's kind of interesting that we talk about, bringing things together with technology. And honestly, man, even with me having my leveraging my 9 to 5 with my business, right? That's
Mhm.
traditionally something that I would have never done because I was always pro. I ain't working for nobody, right?
Yeah.
However, what I realized when I pivoted into this business is I wanted to build my business the way that I wanted it to. I didn't want to go fast. I wanted to go the right way.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I feel is severely underlooked in sort of like the entrepreneur motivation space is actually breaking down the practical aspects of personal finances and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
For years I was building my business, and you kind of get into this limbo where it's like, even when you make strides in business, it's like, okay, well, you have to consider your personal finances, your student loans, your debt, your personal expenses, your lifestyle, your family. Then you have to think about investing into yourself for the business and then investing back into the business. And so
Yeah.
a lot of these different nuances aren't really spoken upon, and a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in sort of like this rat race or this limbo of not really being able to grow and sustain their business because they either are making a little bit of money, but they can't really pull the resources back into the business that they want to because they obviously have to take care of themselves and their family, and or they just don't, or they're not even able to acquire the skill sets that they need, right? Or the
Yeah.
personnel or the people that they need. So
Mhm.
even when we talk about leverage, it's like, it's funny because, I was having this conversation with a person the other day. He said, man, how do you like balance like working in tech sales and then obviously having like a sales and content driven agency and consulting services? And I said,
Mhm.
listen, I treat my job like it's a client. I
Mhm.
leverage technology, I leverage my time to know that I can effectively deliver on what I'm supposed to deliver on, right? And then even with that, I leverage that income to know like, hey, all the money that I make in my business can go towards growing a business. It can go towards client acquisition or,
Mhm.
back end fulfillment or educating myself on something new to stay relevant in the marketplace. And so now it's all about finding your leverage model, because I think that if I could leave any entrepreneur, especially somebody that is either working a 9 to 5 that wants to transition into entrepreneurship, or somebody that is in entrepreneurship that may just be getting tired of getting beaten, battered down by the game of entrepreneurship, find your model and find your leverage, right?
Definitely.
There's this saying that the wider you can build the base of a pyramid, right, the higher you can build it. And a lot of
Exactly.
times I actually think about that when it comes to our personal and financial situation. And so when you're able to build at the right foundation of thinking, at the right foundation of of being and showing up in your business, because you're not in this maybe feast or famine mindset, or you're not in this place where you're always in like survival mode. You know, there's certain levels to business. Like I always say, the first 3-4 years, like it's all about getting that hustle and grind up. But after
Yeah.
that, you realize that you can work really hard and still and have people that are not as smart as you, not as hardworking as you, making more money in a
Mhm.
similar industry. And it's because it's not about working really hard, it's about making the right decisions.
Mhm.
And so now we have to start to consider, well, am I making the right decisions if I'm constantly in this state of fight or flight, or, you know, just like, you know, trying to rush the growth of my business, which is really just a very a gestational process in growth itself.
Definitely. So with that, like you say, like you have, who would you say is your target audience in particular? So I know in general, any person who's looking to get into entrepreneurship and looking to grow from there, but is there a specific kind of person that you're particularly looking to have part of your industry?
Yep. So in my industry, I work specifically with online coaches. So when we think about online coaches, we can think finance coaches, online health and wellness coaches, online life coaches. Then we have online consultants, right? So online consultants in different spaces, as well as online service providers who typically have more premium priced business models, right? Because what we do is we have a specific approach where we're helping them align their content with more premium price business model. Because when you are a service provider, I personally believe that the biggest way to grow is through having a premium price business model. Otherwise, you typically price yourself out the market. And so that's our focus when it comes to that. And so, you know, let's just say if you were you were a recruiter in tech, and you have proximity to all this knowledge around what it should look like for somebody who wants to get a role in tech, and you decided to create a consulting service around that. Like what we do is we help you bridge the gap between what content that you're putting out, and how you're articulating your intellectual property, and building and articulating the value around your solution, and making sure that it's obviously targeting the right people that you want to target to grow your business. So
Definitely. So so for those who don't know, you basically train the trainers essentially.
in a way, yeah, trainers, service
Yeah.
providers, coaches,
Uh,
and you know, we help them understand business development. A lot of times there are people with a good knowledge, a good skill
mm,
set, but they just don't understand business development. They don't
gotcha.
understand how can I sustain clients consistently to make sure that from my business financially and mathematically makes sense. And that's one of the biggest challenges in gaps, especially when you have the social media world, where, you know, a lot of people are sometimes more involved with making it look like they're doing good in business than actually doing business of itself. So, you know, I
Yeah.
like to bridge the gap there because just a very practical business owner. And
Mm,
so it's like, look, you know, you got to grow the business. You got to grow the
yeah.
business, no matter where you're at. If there's something that you're trying to sustain, you have to figure out how can you bring lifeblood and cash flow into the business, and how can we create processes to do this consistently.
Gotcha. Um, I guess my next question is if you're in the business, right? A lot of people are trying to do what is it you're doing. How is it that you separate yourself from the competition, and how would someone else who's looking to get into whatever role that they're looking to get into in terms of entrepreneurship? But I had a conversation with someone. They were like, "Why should I open a pizza store? There are a million pizza stores." I'm like,
Yeah.
"There are a million pizza stores, and they're all making some kind of money." You know what I mean? So I guess how do
Yeah.
you separate yourself there?
Well, if there's a million pizza store, that shows you that there's a demand for pizza, right?
Yes.
So that's one indicator. And I guess the second part is, well, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you position yourself as different, and how do you do it in a way that is repeatable and that can help you grow? It's really just determining how you want to show up to the marketplace. And I think that, you know, when we think about value, we have to look at how value is exchanged. There's one pizza restaurant that you may go to and you may pay for $5 for a slice of pizza, because I know pizza has doubled. I went back to New York. So I only eat pizza when I'm in New York. And I went back to New
Yeah.
York today,
The real
and
stuff.
and I was like, man, it's $5 for a slice of pizza now. It's not 250
Wow.
anymore. Right. But
Mhm.
there's a slice of pizza that you pay for just because the pizza's good. But then
Yeah.
there's a restaurant where you pay $8 for a slice of pizza because the pizza's good and there's a really good atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then there's a place where you go and it's like you don't even know if the pizza's good, but it's just an atmosphere, and you
Mm,
pay $20 to $25 just to get in the door. And so
mm,
you have to determine what is the value that you're offering, and to what market of people that you're serving. right? And so I think that once you can take a look and consider those things, there's an endless amount of ways that you can bring your own differentiation to the marketplace, right? And I would always just tell people, just try not to be the cheapest in the marketplace.
Bro.
That's the first strategy, especially for a small business owner, because
Mhm.
there will always be the Walmarts of your industry that can outprice you. So a lot of
Yeah.
people, they struggle, especially with service providers. They do struggle with charging sustainable price points because it's like, hey, I want to make sure I'm affordable, but it's like, that's true, but there's always going to be somebody that's more affordable to you. How can we put you in
Mhm.
a mindset where it's not about what's affordable, it's about really what's valuable? Because
Mhm.
people look at money subjectively, right, based on value. And so it's like, well, this slice of pizza might not be worth the $5 because I don't think the pizza's that good, versus like,
Mhm.
to the absolute spot and this pizza is hitting and it's the best spot in New York, and I'm 100% pridefully going to pay $8 for that slice, right? And so you got to figure out what's your secret sauce, what's your differentiation, how do you want to bring value to the marketplace that's going to separate yourself from the competition.
Definitely. Bro, this is some good information, man. Like it's crazy too, because like, when someone studies something, they don't have to think about it as much. It's just part of who they are. And
Yeah.
listening to you talk about, like you said, overall building business and overall the peripherals that go into it, it shows just how much studying you've done overall. Are you a avid book reader? Is there any particular authors that you like to focus on?
Yeah, man, I'm definitely an avid book reader for sure. I would have to open up my Audible, but I read a lot of books around business development,
Mhm.
books around personal development. Some of my favorite books are Atomic Habits,
Okay.
uh,
Mhm.
Predictable Revenue, by I think that's Aaron Ross. Um, uh, Man, I got a couple there, but Psycho Cybernetics.
Mhm.
Just like I really do enjoy reading books, and more importantly, it's funny because I always tell people I'm not. I like to read as well as suggest and recommend books based on where you're at in your journey, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, I can go into like my complete book list, right? But I would say, look, there's some people like Napoleon Hill books, and I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I like Napoleon Hill books too. They're all right, right? And so like you have like two of his popular books. One is called Outwitting Your Devil. The other one is called Think and Grow Rich. And
Mhm.
I was an adamant fan of Think and Grow Rich when I was early in my entrepreneurship journey, where most of
Mhm.
it was like I didn't have any skills. I just had a lot of desire, and all I had to do was just out desire my fears. And that's a perfect book, right? That aligns with where I'm at. But
Yeah.
then you start actually doing this stuff and you start growing, and it's not really about procrastination or fear anymore. It's about like, well, what's most effective and making bigger decisions. And now you have a book like Outwitting the Devil that has a little
Mhm.
bit it's a different level to it. So I would always say, I'm an adamant book reader, and I always make suggestions based on where you're at and sort of what context are you looking for,
Definitely. Mhm.
because that's when you can really study the book more pertinent to what's going on inside of your life or your business. And the learning cycle is quicker, it's faster, and it has more context to it.
Definitely. For the person who is working, right? So the person who has a 9 to 5 job, they
Mhm.
they have a wife and kid. They desire to get off out on their own. You do both sides of this, right? Because this person is generally going to be a little bit over, like out of shape. They're
Mhm.
also going to be not always be able to find the time to get done what they need to do.
Yep.
How do you help this person to organize and the plan?
Oh, this is a okay. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me unpack this. Let me unpack this from the standpoint of, in the last 10 minutes I have. Let me unpack this from the context that I come from.
Mhm.
So during my startup, while I was running my startup, I came across a very interesting nuance.
Mhm.
And while I was running my startup, this is typically when I had mentors that were more in a traditional light, right?
Mhm.
So I had five main mentors, and three of them were Caucasian males, two of
Mhm.
them, and the two black males were older. All of them were older, but I noticed that there was a commonality with both of the ones that were black. They were out of shape, um, and one had a very, very interesting relationship with his health.
Mhm.
He built almost a multi-million dollar trucking company, trucking software company out of Michigan. Very successful guy. However, one of the things he always used to tell me, because he used to always like make these comments, because I used to work out at the time. He was like, "Man, always pay attention to your health, or you'll pay it back with interest later." And at the time, I was a trainer, and this guy literally, he battled with cancer, went into remission, and then battled with diabetes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just, he used to always say things like, look, at the end of the day, none of this stuff I built matters if I have to figure out whether I'm going to be here for my family or not next year. That's my actual reality.
Wow.
So, after my startup, after I parted ways with my startup, I built my online fitness coaching business specifically around helping Black men, right, find alignment between their body and their health and their business. And my whole message was like, look, like, you don't have to trade health for success, right? Mm-hmm. And not only does your body become a limitation in your work and your business, but it becomes a limitation in your life if you're not taking care of it. So when you ask that question, the context that I have is like, that's the premise of my business. I wanted to see more Black men like myself thriving and healthy, thriving in business, because it's like, we already have enough adversity. We can't have our health being our adversity as well.
Right.
And so when we start to talk about the transition between a 9-to-5 into a business, and especially that transition of doing both, right? First thing I would do is I would take a look at, from a health and capacity standpoint, where are you? And I would get that in order, and I would get that into some cadence first. When I say get in order, I don't mean you got to lose the 100 pounds or get a 6-pack, right? But you need to get to a place where you actually have enough physical energy to sustain the capacity that you're going to need to still performing your 9-to-5 while starting your business. Yeah. So if you're not optimized you cannot outwork your biology. So if you're not optimized in the body, it's going to be very hard to optimize yourself in the mind. And what I will tell you is that when you're getting out and you're starting and a lot of people think, oh man, I can outwork it. And some people are just built like that, right? However, most people don't recognize their health issues until they're dealing with business issues, until you're at a point where you're stuck at a decision, or you're burnt out, or you're in a mental rut. And now all of those bad habits that you may have developed with your health, those compound into that situation. And now you really see how it's limiting, how it's keeping you stuck. So first step number one is figure out how to get your health to, just like, I would take 90 days. 90 days, 6 months, just get to your health to a point where you feel good, you feel energized, you feel good about yourself, you have some sort of healthy cadence, right? Because now the second part is taking time to figure out sort of what business you want to run, and realistically, what skill sets do you need, right, to effectively run this business. And I think that this is a big part that a lot of people skip, right? In startups, we have accelerators. In like the online coaching industry, we have coaching programs. In the medical industry, you have, what do they do? They, after they do their graduate degree, where they have residency, right? There's some gap where you're actually building skill sets. And so a lot of people, we just leave our job when we get fed up. And we know we typically leave our job when we're at that tipping point of like, I'm fed up enough, and I know a little bit about what I want to do, to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm done here, right? But I think the more, me coming from it, from somebody who started off as a full-time entrepreneur, what I would tell you is to leverage your job, right? And leverage, your income and your resources to, number one, get yourself healthy, but number two, acquire the necessary skill sets needed to grow your business. Typically, those skill sets are going to be on the side of marketing or sales, because marketing and sales is going to be the most challenging part of predominantly of like 95% of business models, right? So if you can learn some skill sets there, now you're setting yourself up to have the skill sets to actually grow the business financially when you do step into it full time, right? So cool, you done got your health in order. Now you've learned some skill sets. Now it's time to start applying those skill sets to the business. And I think from there, it's a matter of you financially modeling your way to quitting. Like, if we're just really looking at it, it's like, well, okay, well, what type of nest egg do I need, or what type of runway do I need to go all in on my business? Now, obviously, that answer to that question looks vastly different if you're like a young, 23-year-old fresh out of college with no children, versus like somebody with a wife and kids, or you have a family, right? And so we need to really take a look at like what those numbers actually look like. and figure out how can you create one runway. Because now when you have capital and you have skill set, you can collapse the runway to getting to a sustainable point in your business, right?
Definitely.
So let's just say that, you know, you on average, you need about you need to take home around $3,000 a month to make sure everything is good between, you know, your family and your business, right? And from there, it's like, okay, if as long as I have that coming in, right? Now I'm able to focus on the business full time, right? Let's just say that
Mhm.
that was the number.
Mhm.
Okay, well, now the next question is, well, what skill sets do you need to acquire in your business to quickly get there, right?
Yeah.
And typically, after you can consistently, you know, do that in the business while also working in conjunction with your 9 to 5, you can build up a little bit of a reserve, and now you have a little bit of runway. Because
Definitely.
ideally, you want to be able to build up runway inside of the business and build up runway reserves inside of your personal finances. So now
Mhm.
it's like, okay, cool. It's time to cut the 9 to 5 loose. You know, we've got revenue that was generated from the business that's going to help the business grow for the next 6 months. We've also got money put aside from the 9 to 5 that's going to help out with for the next 6 months as well. And now you can really go all in, but you're going all in with context because
Mhm.
now I know how to sell. I know how to market within this specific industry. Like if I know exactly what to do, let me really just put my drive and my work ethic to the table and let me start to create. Most times, a lot of people just quit and we're just back against the wall with no skills, no know-how, and now it feels like, well, what am I actually doing here? You're back against the wall, and as time goes by, you're watching your bank account and your reserves go down, and now you find yourself stuck against this place of just like complete scarcity. You find yourself stuck in this place of complete overwhelm, and it doesn't allow you to show up effectively inside of the business. And so I think it's all about understanding your risk tolerance. I think it's all about understanding your runway, and I also think it's about look, if you don't have any of those things, if you don't have children and you have runaway, and you could be like, hey, look, if I can't pay my rent, I'm cool couch surfing. If I'm trying to figure this thing out, then by all means do that. But I think that context matters. And
Definitely.
I'm a person that I like to be thorough in the level in anything that I'm saying in context, because you know we we can't achieve anything without some sort of a hurdle or challenge.
Mhm.
However, there is a level of context that, you know, can help us, right, kind of move around those obstacles and challenges in a way that can get us to success that we want a little bit quicker, right? Or with a little bit more certainty. And so I thoroughly believe that, like, you know, if you're in that 9 to 5, do it strategically. And I think, again, the first one is going to be just getting your health right. Then it's going to be building your skill sets. And then it's going to be creating your runway and your timeline, and objectively having those numbers set, right? Because
Mhm.
now you have something to work towards, and now you got an actual plan, and we can just start getting to working. And then all of a sudden, a couple months, a year later, we're on another podcast talking about how we used to have a 9 to 5, right? And that's ultimately the goal, right? So
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah, man.
Tyson, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a man with a busy schedule, so we're very grateful for everything you've done today. We'll have all of his contact information in the description below. And any final words you want to say to someone who is looking to grow, I guess, from that employee to what you want to what they want to become.
Yeah, man. So first of all, I appreciate you for bringing me on your platform here, man. I hope whoever is watching or listening has gained some insightful value. You know, any insight that I would give somebody that's looking to grow from the 9 to 5 um to the to being an entrepreneur, I would just say understand your risk tolerance, understand where you can gain leverage, invest in yourself, right, and believe in yourself.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time, man. Have a blessed day, and I'm sure we'll see many great things to come.
Appreciate it.